Hello and welcome to the 40th episode of Inherited Will, a One Piece podcast, teaching you to avoid the dangers of gambling. I'm Bird in the Hand.
And I'm Two in the Bush.
Now, terrible jokes aside, in reality, I'm Thomas, that's Jordan, and we are a weekly podcast discussing each week's manga chapter and a reread of past chapters. This week we'll be jumping right on into chapter 1037, and then later 456 through 466. Here we go.
Checking in with some jerks.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 are pretty bad. 1 is not the worst, but still hangs out with jerks, so that's not great.
No, she has a lot to learn.
Indeed. Not much to say on this cover page. It's literally just 3 Vince boats chilling.
Yeah, I mean it's titled like an emotionless excursion, and yep, that shows.
Quite so. Just staring off into the distance as the ships escape. Great. Good for you, Germa. That takes us into the chapter itself. 1037, Drunken Dragon Bagua. Starting off checking in with the people of Wano for a page. The Flower Festival is cruising in full swing now. Everyone's having a good time, drinking and airing grievances with the small opportunity they have here.
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
I appreciate that Oda takes a second every now and then just to remind us, like, the people whose lives are on the line here and just how terrible their lives are. It's really heart-wrenching to see that, like, oh, they can write a wish on these balloons. They just, like, send them floating away, and they can wish for anything. But they wish for very sad things, like lots of water and being able to feed their children.
And seeing their mom.
Depressing. Yeah. I feel bad for everybody involved. But it seems like they're prepping for sky boats, which is like the end of the festival, according to this man. So, gotta hurry up, boys. Gotta send those boats on before the entire Isle of Onigashima falls on top of you.
Can't wait for them to lift Onigashima away in the end.
No doubt. Then we step in to where we spend the most of this chapter, back on top of the skull with Luffy and Kaido. Kaido takes a big ol' swig of non-disclosed alcohol, and Luffy takes issue with this. This is no time to be a drunk man, he says.
I mean, I would normally agree with him, but that's Kaido. Like,
Indeed.
I guess Luffy might not know this about him, but it's a big part of who he is.
Indeed. Up until, well, in fact, I think in pretty much every scene of him, aside from when he, like, fell from the sky, he's been drinking up until this fight began. So, yeah, very in character for him. And he's doing it because he's having a good time, and he's recognizing Luffy as a real threat. This is no power downgrade, apparently.
No, he finds a way to use it, and it works.
Indeed. He even had a name for it, ready to go. This is just a standard tool in Kaido's arsenal, I suppose. But Luffy, distressed, goes in for a big near third punch, but Kaido dodges it using the drunken fist technique, essentially. Oh no, he's a tricky dicky dude.
I do like this little section right here because he goes from the dodge immediately into the counter when he also is changing into like his hybrid form during the turnaround. Like I can appreciate that level of coordination when he's at this level of drunk. Agreed.
He looks so beefy in that panel where he's charging up the lightning hammer.
Oh yeah, he is huge. Even his hair.
And his nose too. I was alarmed by this initially, but I think he's like you noted that like it's cool that he just like straight like into his hybrid form mid attack basically. But I think he's like going one step further and he's like going from there straight into the dragon form. As you see
Yeah.
on the following page, he's already in his dragon
Yeah,
form.
good point.
And his nose is not that weird looking anywhere else.
We did get, yeah, just that one little snippet, huh? Okay, I'll
Indeed.
take it. I like it.
It's pretty cool when they actually use their Zoan powers effectively. I like it a lot. But yeah, he slams Luffy with a Ragnaraku move. Slams him pretty hard into the dirt, destroying part of the castle below him, distressing some goons below.
I'm glad they
Poor
have
guys.
time to worry. There's so much going
Indeed.
on.
Quite so. There's fire like everywhere, samurai pretty much everywhere, debris raining from the sky. Got to worry about Conqueror's hockey blasts coming from like everybody these days.
There's probably people flying through the air. Yeah,
Mhm.
too
It's a
much.
bad day to be a Kaido
Hmm.
goon. Luffy's recoiling from this attack while Kaido's feeling bad about himself. Oh man, gonna have to rebuild the castle. I suck. It took 5 years to make it in the first place.
I
Oh,
love the
poor
vulnerable
guy.
side of Kaido.
Indeed. I really like that Oda's taking this opportunity to show a bit more of Kaido's personality. Um, but I do hope that like this whole drinking thing is perhaps addressed in a flashback or something. Because like when you're drunk, right? It like the main thing is that it like lowers your inhibitions. So what we're seeing here is like kind of the real Kaido beneath the surface.
Yeah.
Um, and I would like to know the root of this like depression that we're seeing here.
Yeah, we've seen him be depressed basically forever. Uh, and we've gotten snippets of his backstory, so it makes sense that it would culminate on that. So maybe in a chapter or two we will get that. Maybe.
Here's hoping.
Yeah.
Uh, Unfortunately for Luffy, he goes in for a counterattack, but oh no. Kaido's summoning Dragon Twister Demolition Gusts hits him pretty dead on, but I guess he blocked it. Uh, the man continues to cry, tears in his beer, the Odabot says. Kaido's having a rough time of it. Uh, Charges up a Thunder Bagua, which Luffy, in a pretty sick series of panels, hops over to dodge, lands on the club, and then channels his inner Sanji and delivers a big ol' stretchy kick directly to Kaido's face.
Yeah, this is the sequence of the chapter for me, for sure.
Yeah,
The
it's dope.
the prepped attack into a backflip to land on the weapon. So good.
Lucky for Kaido, his neck is very sturdy, so it does not break after being hit by this very dangerous looking move. But he goes ahead and coils Luffy's leg in his tail. Another neat use of his Joan ability. It's not just a generic power boost. I like it a lot. Follows it up with a Conqueror's Hockey Headbutt Clash. Also pretty sick looking. Luffy loses that confrontation, though, commenting that his hockey is getting stronger. That's an oh dear.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely looks rough in that clash. Like, Kaido may be crying, but he was doing that beforehand anyway.
That's true.
But yeah, it's scary for our boy right now.
I wonder if this hockey getting stronger thing is just like, oh, Kaido's starting to put his foot on the gas a little bit more, and he's just slowly buffing himself as the fight goes on. Or if it could be that, like, similar to how Luffy grows his hockey in combat, if Kaido is also literally getting more powerful as this fight goes on, which would not be good for Luffy if that is what is happening here.
No, but it certainly would lend itself to the bet on Kaido in a one-on-one,
Indeed.
you know?
He's a beefy man who has not been challenged in a long, long time. But oh no, he's also got laser blasts, shoots one out. Luffy dodges it though, preps a upgraded version of his elephant Gatling, the Gum Gum Rock Gatling. Kaido counters it though with the Kundali Dragon Swarm, big ol' club swings. They both take some hits, goes on for a good long while, but Luffy eventually, I guess, wins this confrontation with a big kick to his tummy. Poor guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's really impressive that Kaido can move that fast. Like, he is swinging that thing with, well, not even like reckless abandon. Like, he is countering the punches, so he has to be aiming somewhat. But that's a big weapon to be moving that fast.
Yeah, for sure. Kaido's a large man, so you would think he would be like relatively slow, but we've seen him speed blitz Luffy a couple of times.
Yeah.
That was before the Conqueror's Haki buff, of course, but even so.
Yeah, but I like the finisher. I like that it seems to go from like, a gear third foot to something more condensed when it actually hits Kaido. I don't know if that is anything, but it like kind of makes sense if he's able to condense it, that it would be more powerful.
Yeah, I suppose so. I just really like that he's actually using his transformations now.
Yeah.
Up until like last chapter, I think it was, when he used his first like gear third hit of this particular round of the fight. I was very worried that Luffy was going toe to toe with him in his base form, but now he's using gear third and gear second. Still no gear fourth, so still not going 100% all out, but we'll get there, I'm sure.
Yeah. I would have been using gear second straight from the get-go, but, that's me.
Guess he felt he didn't need it. And it even looks like he's using it like simultaneously on the last page, or the previous page, during the Gatling move. He's using the big punches, but it also looks like he has steam there to make go faster.
Yeah. It makes sense.
I mean, gear second to make it go faster. The steam is just there because he's using gear second.
Yeah. But like all of his forms are still useful, and yeah, it's good to see him come out and build up, It's a progression. That's why I don't know. That's why I like Luffy's fights.
For sure. Then on these last two pages, we get some curious things. Mysteriously, even though we are still in Act 3, we touch in with the Gorosei for a hot second. The 5 elders, the toppest top of the world government, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are currently standing in a large room with very little furniture in it. It's not even enough chairs in there for all 5 of them to sit down for some reason. They have 2 chairs and a love seat, and that's it. Yeah, weird. But one of them was complaining about the reverie, right? But they're like, nah, don't worry about that just yet. We got bigger fish to fry in the here and now. They're just kind of generally complaining, oh, it's a mess over there, but I'm sure Robin's already in captivity, and we can use this as an excuse to wipe out some dudes. But then, back at Wano, where the world government ships are waiting for the fight to end, a lookout sees a shadow. A huge shadow up ahead, he says, but joke's on you, idiot. The elephant's behind you. Although that is still strange, because in the previous panel, it looks like there's a shadow in front of them. Right?
Yeah.
But then when we get the elephant reveal, it's behind them.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit strange. The way this is framed, right? We get the bit with, the guy sees the shadow up ahead. And then it cuts back to the 5 elders, where they're talking about a special devil fruit that has not awakened for centuries, that for some reason the government gave a specific name to. And then it cuts back to Zuniesha and says it's to erase that fruit's name from the annals of history. All that makes it seem as though Zuniesha is somehow connected to that fruit they're talking about. Right?
Yeah.
Agreed? At least that is the way it appears to be. could be a red herring, and I will talk about that as well. But so, is the implication here, just from how it appears on the page, that Zuniesha is a devil fruit user?
Well, that would kind of make sense. I mean, there's no reason Zuniesha couldn't be a devil fruit user.
The only kind of curious bits is that there is already an elephant fruit. Funkfried is a sword who ate the elephant fruit, but this would have to be like, well, I say it has to be, but this could be a giant who ate a fruit, or it could be a normal sized person who ate a like mythical giant elephant fruit. I did some research into this when I saw it earlier today, and you know the story of like the world turtle, right, in Hindu ideology. In some versions of that story, on top of the world turtle, there are a bunch of smaller but still pretty big world elephants that carry, and those together are what actually carry the weight of the world. So maybe it's one of them, and that would also explain the connection with like, oh, the literal country of Zo is on its back, right?
Yeah, okay.
But it's also a little strange because Zuniesha walks through a considerable amount of water, but we do already know that it's like the ratio of how much of your body is covered in water that affects how weak you become.
Right.
And it's really, like, Zuniesha's really tall, but it's like certainly less than knee deep for him, it seems, or her. I think Zuniesha's a female. I think that's been established. I don't remember.
I also want to say that, but I couldn't swear on it.
Literally could have made it up.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if it would be enough for it to matter. And also, I guess I don't know if you said it, but it could be an elephant that ate some sort of weird fruit.
Indeed. It can also like turn into like a tornado or something. This elephant, this giant elephant, has a Logia fruit as well. That would be bad news. Imagine if this thing had like Kizaru's power and could also shoot lasers.
Oh my god.
At its size.
And could move at the speed of light. Everything would be dead already.
Indeed. But this thing about it having a specific name to that devil fruit. Could this be the long fabled but never actually addressed ancient weapon Uranus? Could the devil fruit itself that Zuniesha seems to have ate, the like world elephant fruit, I'm assuming, be what the ancient weapon is?
Yeah, I mean that would line up. I'd be into that.
There doesn't seem to be any sort of rhyme or reason for the other two ancient weapons. Like Poseidon is like the ability to control the sea canes. It's just the mermaid princess, basically. Mm-hmm. And Pluton is like a boat or a gun or something akin to that. Something that can be built by human hands, supposedly. So I see no reason that this couldn't be like a third weird, non-related power.
Yeah, no, I like that.
But it could also be, like I said before, it's like a bit of a red herring, because it is a little bit strange that it goes from the world government, the elders, talking about just kind of Wano in general terms, and then 3 panels later, they're talking about, you know, something completely different, effectively.
Yeah.
So unless they're like receiving real-time events, like updates on events from where they're sitting, which could be the case, it could just be 2 separate conversations happening simultaneously. I don't think that's the case, but technically possible. In which case, there's like so many other things that they could be talking about.
Yeah, that opens up a whole can of worms.
I was on Twitter for about 5 minutes this morning, and wouldn't you know it, there are oh so many theories on which fruit it could be talking about.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I think the more popular ones were Luffy's fruit, of course, since we know that is special to them in some capacity.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's very likely because...
The name is pretty straightforward on that one.
Indeed. And, like, they're talking about how it hasn't been awakened for centuries, and why would the government give it a special name? But they already know about the gum gum fruit.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a little strange that they're talking about it in these, like, uncertain terms if they already, had intel on it 10 years ago, whenever that was. Some people also seem to think that they're talking about Tama's fruit, and then that fruit is actually the Uranus fruit, and that the previous owner of Tama's fruit is what gave Zuniesha the order to walk forever in the first place. Which could be. I'm not sure how I feel about Tama being this important to the main narrative of the story, but I can't directly refute it, except for that, generally speaking, when a devil fruit user dies, their ability also ceases, right?
Yeah.
So it would be strange if Zuniesha had to continue to walk even after the previous owner died. But that's not a hard and fast rule. Like with Moria, he says in the reread chapter I'm about to get to in a couple minutes, that even if he dies, the shadows won't go back to where they're supposed to be. So, technically could be the case. Let's see. I think those were the main ones. Someone also said something about Law, but I think his fruit is already special enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I like the guy, but yeah, give some other screen time away.
Indeed. Point being, this is a whole can of worms the five elders have chosen to open up very late in the game. But I am downright fascinated about where it's going to go.
There's so many players here. Like,
indeed.
This whole island is showing up, and I mean, these ships are basically done for, right?
I mean, if they pick a fight with Zuniesha, for sure. It's been shown to be fairly peaceable most of the time. With Jack, it had to be commanded to defend itself, right? But it does make you wonder, now that Zuniesha is here, what is it going to do?
Right.
I mean, we are getting like lore implications here, but how is it going to affect the here and now, right? It can hardly like step onto Wano and like start messing stuff up. I wouldn't think.
No, but we have seen both Momo and Luffy like hear it, right?
Not recently, but yes, back when we were on Zo, that was true.
So, I don't know. I have no idea how or if they would interact again, but that is some connection.
For sure. Maybe Zuniesha, like, heard, like, Luffy calling out with the voice of all things, like, 10 chapters ago, whenever that was. It was like, alright, gotta go help my boy. And started cruising.
I mean, yeah, why not?
It's all very curious. I'll be kind of bummed out if, like, this is Momo's get out of jail free card with the Falling Island. Because, like, I guess the ability to command Zuniesha is an established power of Momo's, and that's all fine. But it kind of makes him transform me into a big beefy dragon irrelevant if it's just going to be caught by elephant.
Why would you do the aging up if you were going to do this as matter?
Right. Curious indeed. But I'm sure Oda has big plans in store for our big elephant friend. Any other thoughts on this chapter before we move on to the reread?
Nope. This was a weird one and a good one.
Indeed. I liked it a lot, but sure does open up a lot of questions. We are on yet another break next week. New chapter comes out January 29th.
Okay, so here in Reread City, we're going from the introduction of ores to Perona and Zoro being no mores. I don't know if I like that one, but it's all I had.
Please keep it in.
Okay. um, so there's a lot that happens in these like 10 chapters or whatever, but we have now seen the like Moria and Kaido fight that is alluded to in these chapters, right? Or well, not maybe seen the fight, but at least seen a clash of it. And apparently Moria thinks that he could have won if he had just more zombies with him.
Yeah. I don't think that's true, my guy.
Yeah, based off of what we see, I just like maybe if he had the right shadows and the right zombies, maybe. But I mean, Kaido's a big dragon that breathes fire, so
He seems to think that ores is like gonna be like his big gun,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
But Kaido literally has 10 Orses
Yeah.
on his squad. Now, I again don't really think that the numbers are as big as Ors. Everything we've seen of them sure does suggest the contrary. Um, but people keep saying that's true. So
I mean, Ors is gigantic. Like I
so big.
have two notes on Ors, and it's that he's big and old.
Those are the main things. He's got horns, mostly.
Yeah, and well, and he also has Luffy's fighting skills and mindset now, which is, a whole thing.
Indeed. Considerable power. But yeah, I don't think even with Ors they are doing much against Kaido's squad.
No.
He also says that like he plans on using him to like get more stronger shadows, which is, fair. So but if you still intend for Ors to be your main guy, then not gonna go so well.
Yeah, unless you get some more Ors, I guess. Orses.
Indeed. Gonna need quite a few.
Yeah. But like, well, I guess this was something I was going to talk about later, but whatever. At one point, I think in an SBS, Oda makes a point of saying that like the zombie numbers are recycled. Like, 1 through 199 is one section of zombies and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that he has a maximum number, which is 900, at least, for right now? Like,
indeed, at any given time, basically.
Yeah, I'm sure at one point it was much lower than 900, and if he trained, it could go above 900, but for now, we are there. So, like, he would, I mean, if he had 900 of people, like, maybe not Or's size or whatever, that's ridiculous, but even a fraction of that with people of Luffy's. Well, I guess, wait, what's Luffy's bounty right now? Like 300 some mil?
Yeah, it's exactly 300 million.
300 million? Okay. I mean, yeah, if he had, whatever, 10 Luffy's, he could do something. I don't know how strong Kaido was before time skip, but probably about the same as after time skip. He's very comfortable.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I mean, Kaido's squad of like dudes, again, maybe it grew over the time skip, but he's got like 20 some thousand guys.
Yeah.
Not all of those are beefers, but even like your smuck smile users are considerable in strength. And he's got 10 Orses on his side still. Like
it's really hard to push this battle for a Moria win. Like, I just don't see it.
I don't see it happening. The man is far past the point of delusion if he thinks that this plan is going to get him to top Kaido.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's shown to be cocky, like, for sure. Pretty much every villain is, but, like, him especially.
I
Ugh.
mean, maybe there's a chance if like Oars and his 900 Zambies like distract specifically just Kaido long enough for Moria to just snip off his shadow, because that's like bam boom, problem solved. As far as we know, no one's been able to resist falling unconscious after having their shadow cut so far.
Yeah.
But if anybody could, I think it would be Kaido.
Probably. Yeah, he's got some code word that would wake him up.
But imagine spending however many years Moria has been at this to just create enough distractions for a single man.
Yeah, I mean, like if he brought Perona, then that would help. That would make it a lot easier. I'm sure that
Well, maybe
Kaido's.
not. It'll depend on the stage of drunkenness that Kaido is in.
Oh shit, that's
If he's already
true.
in depressed mode, then no effect.
Good point. Wow, this has layers.
There's a lot of factors. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I can't believe we're entertaining the idea of Moria versus Kaido.
Well, it's just fun, right? Like,
Yeah.
what else are we here for? And we gotta try to connect it to the current stuff, because why not at this point?
Pretty much.
So anyway, yeah, Oars is introduced, and like some of the crew is there. Luffy, well, I guess Luffy is kind of there. He might have been thrown away by now. But Nami, Usopp, and Chopper are there, and I think the most important thing is that they make it away because they're like the weak ones. Like,
yeah.
like not only are they already prone to running away, but Moria and company are just like not even incentivized to chase after them. They're just like, oh, it's them. Okay.
I'm sure some zombie will deal with that.
Yeah.
Basically.
Like it's whatever. And I think that's the main takeaway there.
Indeed. Moria is notably a lazy man, content to let others do his stuff for him. So, very much within the character we've seen of him so far.
Yeah.
And it made sense that he would have goons that would feel similarly with their army of 900 slaves, effectively.
It's a pyramid scheme.
Pretty much.
I feel bad
Scary
for them.
Zombie pyramid scheme. It's all spooky on Thriller Bark in more ways than one.
Yeah. I guess I found this out when I did some Googling, but I didn't know that like Moria found Perona as a child and just kind of like adopted her basically. Didn't know that was the backstory there.
Yeah. I didn't know that either until it came up here.
So
Nifty.
I mean, neat, I guess, but also bad. Not a very good father figure, I would guess.
Probably. But it's also another bit of a parallel between Moria and Kaido, because Kaido has a few people under his employ that were found in similar ways.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of if there are many crews that have that going for them. Because after a while, like once a crew is running for a while, I would guess that becomes more and more likely.
Indeed. Just like with the with page 1 and Ulti, like Kaido knew their dad and they died or something. So Kaido's a pretty old guy, so I'm sure similar situations have occurred with other long-standing crews.
Right.
I'm sure Whitebeard had a few like that.
That's what I was thinking. Or like, who knows how Shanks and Buggy ended up where they were.
I bet some of Big Mom's many children probably have children of their own by now, so that's in a similar vein.
Guaranteed, yeah.
Big Grandma.
Big Grandma, that's good. Yeah. But anyway, speaking of just crews and the crew more specifically. Um, I guess Oda really wanted to like drive home how good of a fit Brook is for the crew. So like after the majority of the crew is reunited and they share information between them about Oars and the Shadows and Moria and all that, we get the explanation of Frankie's like turn, his sudden love for our favorite skeleton.
Uh-huh.
And like Oda just decides to tie Brook in with Laboon, just a character we last saw 350 chapters ago. And like beyond that, in fiction, he first gives that information to two people on the crew that don't even know about the whale. Like I love this build up and then the the tie-in and then the further tie-in with the afro looking like Laboon and Brook's reluctance to ever let it go. It's all very good.
Indeed. That little bit does a lot to solidify Brook's characterization. His sense of duty is incredible.
Yeah. And he still manages
Right.
to be like the most lighthearted. Well, I don't know about gentleman. I was gonna say that, but it's hard to say that for him.
Yeah, it's hard to say that and actually mean it. He looks the part, and acts like it sometimes, but,
Just
not
the right
always.
amount.
Yeah. But Frankie asked this man, basically, point blank, you're a skelly man. Your life is basically over already. Even if you get your shadow back, what are you going to do then? What's left for you in life, basically? And the one thing that has kept Brook going for 50 years of non-death, completely alone on a boat, and, like, he can't even see past, like, his hand in that fog, was this promise he made to a whale all those years ago. As the sole survivor, it's his one thing, it's his duty. He has to return and fulfill the promise because he's the only one left that he can. This man has been holding on to this for a long fucking time.
Yeah.
I especially like this bit where he said, like, it doesn't matter if it's been 50 years and no reasonable person will still be waiting there. Brook doesn't think he has the right to assume that he's not going to be there anymore. So he still has to make it back and at least check.
Yeah. That was a great line.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like Brook a lot. Too bad, like, beyond this arc, he doesn't get to do very much on panel. But, in the here and now, Brook is really impressing me.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the pain of having so many like main characters, you know? You can only have
Yeah.
so much screen time.
Upsetting, but this is the reality we live in.
But in the fiction, the crew they're back on the offensive. They're reinvigorated for their battles ahead. In the usual fashion, they are split, with some going after Moria and others going to check on Brook. But then, in a special twist, Oda almost immediately changes up those groupings in a fun way with Oars.
Indeed. They are just running along in a passage, and then all of a sudden that passage is smooshed along with that entire building. Surprise, Oars is crushing things.
Yeah, not sure how Sanji and Usopp survived that one, but I'm very glad they did.
Good on them. I especially like the bit right after that where Frankie builds an incredibly detailed, fancy bridge in like a second.
Literally one panel.
Indeed. In the Shokugeki no Sanji chapter that just came out a couple weeks ago, it like covers a bit where like Sanji's like prepping his soba shop in Wano, right?
Okay.
And Sanji asks Frankie to build him a soba stand, right? And he receives the instructions and builds the shop all within the same panel. And it was very silly, and it reminded me greatly of this specific scene right here.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
You have to love the efficiency of storytelling and gag putting in, like,
Indeed.
that's Oda's experience and just knowing that it is gonna hit and it's gonna be fantastic.
And in the here and now, it's a great way to showcase his skills and his utility for the crew in situations like these. Uh, but I do not like that the reason he had to do it was because it was too far to jump. Oh no.
I was thinking about other ways that they could have gotten over that, and they could do it. At least some of them could get to the other side of the bridge.
Yeah, like Sanji for sure. Zoro, I'm inclined to think probably could. Frankie has the coup de bout,
Yeah.
and he could just do that and carry all of them, and that's problem solved.
I feel like Sanji could basically like kick all of them over.
That's the least comfortable option out of the ones I described, but yeah, he could do that.
I mean,
just like punt them across.
Yeah. I mean, well, I meant more like launch them with his feet as he has done before, but sure, why not just punt them?
Yeah, pretty much. Oh boy.
Yeah.
But, I guess what Frankie did was faster than all of those options. And they didn't exactly have the time to debate how they were going to do it. So
That's true. They didn't
it's
even
not
need
that
to
bad.
think this way.
Yeah. Just bothers me a little bit.
Well, doesn't matter.
Yeah. One day I'll get over it.
So the new groupings eventually lead to Usopp versus Perona, where, as we kind of mentioned before, like he is the only option available for the fight.
Yeah,
And
Perona's pretty broken.
yeah, well, I just love how early Perona's like freak out face comes out, and just the counter of Usopp's weirdly placed confidence.
Indeed. He sure is confident in his terrible, terrible character trait, as I believe the zombies mention. He's just so proud that he is so negative minded. But that's probably because it's the one time and it's actually been useful.
I can understand his excitement to some degree. You want
It's
to
a
be
weird
useful.
thing to get hyped about, but Usopp's got to take the victories where he can get them.
Yeah, we don't quite get to the victory right there. I guess we jump around a little bit before that. We see the start of like Zoro's fight, kind of. Zoro's fight is weird here, but
Yeah, like the last thing that happens in this chunk is like they show the end of the fight, and as we know, it's a red herring. It doesn't quite go exactly as it is portrayed.
yeah,
And then we cut back to 5 minutes previous, where the fight is actually beginning,
right.
which is an odd thing for Oda to do, but it was neat. It certainly made it more dramatic, thinking that Zoro was going to lose.
Right, because that just like doesn't happen often.
Indeed.
But I also I like that we get a little bit of insight into Zoro's brain here at the before it even starts, really. Like he, at least I'm pretty sure, he originally says he just kind of wants to check out the swordsman. Like, no big deal. That makes sense. Swordsman, Zoro, yeah. But then he later is just like, yeah, well, I mean, you're a master swordsman samurai. Statistically, you're gonna have a good sword. I came here for that. And like,
Yeah.
that is pure Zoro, and it's lovely.
Yep. Classic no nonsense Zoro. He knows what he wants and he knows how to get it.
Yep, he's done
Man's
this
going
before,
for
right?
Indeed. And by now, like if you were reading like week to week, it's probably been enough time that you may have forgotten that Zoro only has 2 swords by now.
Especially
So
since he
it's-
still carries the hilt around.
Indeed. I think he says like it's more comfortable that way or whatever. That may not have happened here, but one of the previous times that he lost his swords. So I'm sure that was a nice hype moment for the weekly readers back in the day.
Oh, for sure.
New sword hype, as they say.
They always say it, yeah. We also see the start of the Moria and Luffy like confrontation, and the main points that I had were that, like, I don't know, Moria talks a little bit of smack at Luffy, and it's kind of good. It's neat to see why he is the way that he is. Like, he explains that he just doesn't want to do things. He can make other people do it, so why would he? And like
Yeah.
that kind of probably led to him being in the situation that he's in. Like, I don't know, he decided to level off and take a government job and just kind of I mean, he was trying to build in secret, but I I mean, what was his bounty when it was frozen? Like 360 million or something?
Oh, I don't remember. I think they said it was bigger than Luffy's, but I don't remember
I think
exactly
I
how much.
actually have Moria's page up. Bounty 320 million. So like
Yeah,
it
just barely above Luffy's.
right, it wasn't much above.
It's like,
I don't know how long he's been in this position, but like if he's been trying to build up and he still gets taken out by Luffy, even though, Luffy in theory gets stronger and all that. Like, he didn't buff up all that much, I guess.
yeah. I mean, Moria. It's interesting to me that like what Moria says to Luffy here, he's really talking about himself, right? He says, well, he's also talking about Luffy, but he knows that that is true about Luffy because that is what he did, right? He says like, oh, when the young overestimate themselves, they set themselves up for a big fall, which is exactly what happened to him when he tried to go up against Kaido back in his youth.
Yep.
Um, so I don't know if it's ever directly stated or if this is just my own like interpretation of events, but it seemed to me that back in the day, Moria was like physically stronger himself, right? But then he tried to fight against Kaido with a mostly living crew. They all got boned over in a big way, and it's from then that he decided, okay, I have this zombie ability. It is safer and easier for me to just use that and abuse it to the best of my ability to make, basically a slave army. And that, like, mentality kind of made him complacent, you
Yeah,
know?
for
Like you
sure.
said, if he doesn't have to do anything, why would he?
Hmm.
So I think that the Moria of today himself has gotten considerably weaker over the years. And that shows in his body as well,
Yeah,
because
I
in
was
that
gonna
flashback,
say, if you just look at the body type, like in the flashback with Kaido, I mean, he looks like someone you could almost root for.
hmm hmm
And now he's an
but now
onion.
he's shaped like an onion. Yeah, poor guy.
uh,
Still scary though. He's got a tricky power, that Doppelman.
yeah, well, so we know other people have probably had this power in the past, and I assume that they were trained in the blade somehow. Like, I find it so weird that he needs to cut shadows from people. Um, like, he's got these giant
Oh,
scissors, which is great, and if I remember correctly, he can like split them up and change them into two swords, and that's cool and fine. But I can't imagine devil fruit users of generations past had the same luxury. Also, probably not the luxury of being like 18 feet tall and just able to lift people up and take their shadow that way.
yeah. Makes you wonder how he like discovered that he can do that.
Yeah.
Because like the default power is like his shadow can move and he can like manhandle people's shadows. But like then he decides one day, you know what? I wonder if I can cut this sucker off. And then he goes to his really big kitchen. He opens his really big junk drawer, pulls out his really big scissors, and just goes to town on that sucker. And thus his slave army is born.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I'll allow a lot of things because I want to, but I don't know. It's a bit of a leap, but oh well.
Indeed. I'm sure with enough nitpicking we could tear apart anybody's ability like this, but it's a little more obvious with Moria's.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, So anyway, we just get the start of the Luffy Moria thing. I do like that Luffy jumps into the pit and kicks him in the butt because that's just, I mean, it's unexpected for Moria. Obviously, this is something new that he hasn't encountered before. He doesn't know how to handle Luffy brain, and how could he? So,
Indeed.
that sets it up nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to the Sanji fight, which is, I mean, it starts and he and Absalom just kind of share one brain cell for a little bit, and then the fight is pretty much over. Sanji has been riding one hell of an emotional wave, and he puts it all into every one of his many kicks. There's not much back and forth, which I'm okay with because I don't care for Absalom, and this is Sanji at some of his perviest, so, like, fine.
Yeah. I've always had mixed feelings about this particular Sanji battle. On the one hand, like you said, it's nice to see Sanji just easily beat down this terrible, terrible lion man.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, this is also the start of a very unfortunate trend with Sanji's character. While it is a relatively tame joke here, this bit with Sanji wanting to peep in the bath is the moment where Sanji's character shifts from well-meaning gentleman who can't be cool in front of women to just a pervert, and it gets worse from there. Again, not so bad in the here and now, but it's a real downhill slope, and distresses me to my core.
Yeah, always will.
Indeed. But it kind of seems like Sanji's given up on that dream very recently, so maybe we'll get some real growth with that man sometime soon.
We can dream.
Yeah, I sure do.
Yeah. The real winner of this fight, though, is the zombie narrator that we have, who calls out both of them for being equal levels of bad.
I don't agree with that take, but I can understand how that zombie would feel that way.
In that moment, they're definitely equal levels of bad.
I suppose so.
Okay. We finally get back to Usopp's fight. It took a while to get back around to this. Like, the other one's a little bit cleaner, but
No, it's a little weird that we got, like, the start of Usopp's fight, and then we had the entirety of Sanji's fight before we got back to Usopp.
yeah, we also, I mean, there was a lot of stuff in between there,
Yeah.
but, well,
The
not
Moria
a lot,
thing,
fair amount.
this, that, and the other.
Yeah, but Usopp is basically in the opposite situation of Sanji. He is really getting his butt handed to him at a certain point when Perona reveals that none of his attacks can hit her. Like, he just really takes a beating to the point that he basically snaps and pulls out Sniper King for the comeback against Kumasi?
I pronounce it Kumasi, but
Kumasi. That's the one that makes sense
You know.
to me. But, like, it really, he really does have to reach one heck of a threshold before the turn of this fight.
yeah, a funny gag for sure, the Soji King thing. Um, but I'm also sure that putting on that mask did kind of help him remember the lessons he learned on Eni's lobby about doing what he can. You know, that conversation he had with Sanji back then. No one else can take on Perona, so it falls to him to do it.
Well,
And,
I would argue even further that it made him think, like, okay, Soge King is a mask for me. This has to be a mask for her in a way. Like, the way that
like, put
she
the idea in
became.
her head.
What'd you say?
So putting on the mask, like, put the idea in his head that, oh, maybe things are not quite as they seem here.
Yeah, well, he says that, like, when he's thinking through it, he's like, okay, why did she get so confident all of a sudden? And, like, he got all that confidence out of nowhere, and like it makes sense, at least to me, that that's how he got there, and I really like that.
Yeah. I hadn't considered that factor, but yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
Big if true.
Right? I mean, I think this is a pretty great Usopp fight overall. He definitely summed it up best at the end when he says you shouldn't have challenged him in negativity and lying. Like, for sure. Indeed. Yes. I think after he hit that lowest point, he really was a step ahead of her the whole time.
Yeah, he was dominating as soon as he put on that mask.
Pretty incredible.
Good lord. Usopp the man. Champion Usopp.
Yeah.
Handsome man Usopp.
He does look cool when he's walking away. I enjoyed a few of the panels on that fight. And then we get the final snippet of Zoro that you already kind of alluded to. And I don't know if I have much else to say there other than, in a way, both of them, both Zoro and Ryuma, are fighting at a disadvantage. Zoro only has 2 of his 3 swords, as he pointed out. But Ryuma has Brook's Shadow, who uses more of a stab fighting style, and is wielding just like a samurai blade that's probably made more for slashing.
I don't know the ins and outs of like fencing versus, like a more slashy sword style as the Japanese are known for. But I can't imagine that type of sword is conducive to how Brook fights. And if Ryuma, like in life, was as buff as we are led to believe, it sure does seem like Brook's Shadow itself is dragging him down considerably.
Yeah.
If this Zoro is able to beat him.
Yeah. I mean, that's
embarrassing, Brook.
Yeah, I mean, Brook even exclaims at one point, like, who is this guy when talking about Zoro? So we know he's outclassed immediately.
Indeed. It's a shame we have a second fiddle swordsman on the crew these days.
But a first fiddle in our hearts.
Indeed. Funny bits?
Funny bits.
The hee-haws and such?
I have many. There were so many in this. I don't know if I'll say every one of mine.
All right, start us off with one.
I mean, just for consistency's sake, Chopper keeps hiding the incorrect way, even when peeking out of Kumasi.
Indeed. I'm not sure how we got it wrong that time, but, this has been just Chopper's headspace forever.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a habit that will never be broken.
It's his main personality trait, as far as I can tell.
Indeed. That and having a big hat.
Yes.
Let's see. My first one was Brook overhearing the story of the zombie who was purified by eating the salted fish and assuming that the purification was caused by the fish.
Yeah.
And in a similar vein to that, Hogback being unbelievably bad at lying about it when pushed.
He tried so hard.
Yeah, he sure did fuck that up, though. Embarrassing.
The only difference that Luffy saw between Zoro and his zombie was that the zombie wore wooden clogs.
Indeed. That was the only difference he could describe, and it confused Zoro in a big way.
And he was so proud. He was like, yeah, it didn't confuse me even one bit. Like,
indeed.
Good.
I recognized you immediately. Yeah. Saw right through the wooden clogs.
Good job, Luffy.
Quite so. Of course, the classic that was just before that, despite the rule being stated that they would have to be asleep for at least 2 days, the 3 beefy boys willed themselves awake by the promises of their favorite things, women, meat, and swords.
Done so efficiently. A beautiful female swordmaster carrying lots of meat.
Yeah, they really combined it all into one. They could have just, said those things separately, and it would have been fine.
Yeah,
but
Usopp, he's gotta add a flair to it.
Indeed.
Dr. Hogback has a special tummy dance he does and is very confident in.
Indeed, he does it at weddings, and he was more than willing to do it at Absalom's. Had A, that wedding not have been a sham, and B, if they didn't have much bigger fish to fry at the time.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, we'll see him again one day, I'm sure.
Uh,
Maybe he was at that wedding that Shanks was at during one of the cover arcs.
Sure, why not?
Confirmed. All but guaranteed.
I appreciated that Oars referred to Moria as a small onion man when he was like eating after having Luffy's shadow. And then later, Luffy refers to Moria as that giant onion guy.
Yeah.
That's good.
They really do think exactly the same.
Yeah.
Good boys.
And then I got one more. And as much as I don't like Absalom in this fight too much, the "whoa, an angel" bit is still good.
Indeed. Him and Sanji go back and forth for a good while, and they bro out over it for a second. And it's the only endearing moment that either of them have during this chunk.
Yep. Sad but true.
Indeed. Hoo boy. Taking those L's, as the kids say these days. Sanji fans. Can you imagine being a Sanji fan in this day and age?
Oh, it sounds so painful.
Indeed. But that sounds like the last gad you had, and we covered the rest of mine as we went. So that pretty much wraps us up for this week. Like I said before, there is another break next week. Next chapter doesn't release until January 29th. Feel free to send in your thoughts on this chapter or the reread or whatever via email to inheritedwillpodcasts@gmail.com, on Twitter to @inherited_will, or in a comment on the platform of your choosing. As always, thanks for listening.
Goodbye.